Hello and welcome back to another Oz-Lect video. Today we're just going to be doing a recap of the Queensland election. And in particular we're going to be focusing on regional Queensland. We'll do another video later on Brisbane, Sunshine Coast and the Gold Coast, but in this episode I just want to focus really on the results that we saw in regional Queensland. So I've done this little graphic up here which really tells a huge story. We see the 2020 result. The Labor government was strong in the regions. I know north of Gladstone, the LNP only held 2 seats. Burdekin and Whitsundays, they held a lot more in the south. But yeah, regional Queensland, what we can see is in 2020, it was a slight lead for the LNP. The Labor Party had 14 seats, Katter 3, One Nation 1, and the LNP 10. That's the total number of seats in regional and rural Queensland. Flash forward to 2024, and we see an absolutely outstanding performance for the LNP compared to Labor. So for that 9.5% swing that I've calculated for the regions and all regional electorates, which has brought the LNP up 12 seats, benefiting off Morani from One Nation / Katter, and then 11 from the Labor Party. So what we can see there is really that transformation in regional Queensland to kind of match the federal scene. A lot of federal, regional and rural seats have been LNP for a while now, and I think regional Queensland on state level is now matching up with that federal scene of a strong LNP presence in the regions of Queensland. So that's a decimation for the ALP in the regions, and it's a decimation I think a lot of Labor Party insiders saw coming, but it'll definitely impact their performance and that argument where they could say that they were the voice for regional Queensland with that diminished seat count. So Katter and the Labor Party have the same amount of seats outside of the southeast corner. So that's just some interesting statistics to look at, that swing that I've calculated of regional seats compared to last elections. That seat change significantly favouring the LNP. Interestingly, One Nation made no gains. I know they were hopeful in Keppel, and we'll go over that soon, but they didn't seem to perform as well. So now I'll just go over some of those seats, particularly the interesting ones. So if we just have a look at Barron River, obviously up in Cairns, that seat swung by 7%, which is about the statewide average, defeating Craig Crawford. If we head further down, Bundaberg was the real surprise of the election, I think. And let's go to the first preference results for Bundaberg. And that is the fact that Tom Smith won by just 8 votes. 9 votes, in 2020. You'd think it was a given for an LNP considering a 9.5% swing in the regions. But despite that only 9-vote win in 2020, Tom Smith, the sitting MP, has been able to retain that seat with the only swing to him in regional Queensland. So that was definitely an interesting result that I'm sure the Labor Party will be very happy with for that performance in Bundaberg. If we continue onwards, the Burdekin obviously is another regional seat where Dale Last has been re-elected. Anne Baker was the mayor of the region for a while, but she was unable to secure the seat from the Labor Party. This is a real mining area, so it encompasses Moranbah and Dysart up to Bowen, real mining communities. Cairns is an interesting result. Another seat that if the actual swing had been applied of the whole election, particularly this 9.5% swing in regional Queensland, Yolanda Ench would have been elected, but unfortunately for her, that's not what's happened, and Michael Healy has been re-elected. He was Stephen Miles' tourism minister. So just having a look at this interesting result here, what we're seeing is a shift from Labor and the LNP to One Nation. And I suppose that 11% swing is what Yolanda Ench would have wanted to her primary vote, which probably would have gotten her across the line. But instead it's going to the One Nation, which is then obviously going to distribute the preferences and help Michael Keeley alongside that strong Green result in getting him over the line. So this was declared on the night that Cairns was another anomaly to the statewide swing in regional Queensland. Collide, as we know, was another one, but that was a given. Same with Condamine. If you have a look at Cook here, Cynthia Liu was the state member, and she's been defeated. Dave Kempton is the member who was defeated in 2015 by Cynthia Liu. He won the primary vote by a little bit, a 9.7% swing to him. There was a strong Katter performance in this electorate, which preferences would have favoured David Kempton and elected him over Cynthia Lu. There was also that One Nation presence and Green presence, with One Nation obviously helping David Kempton getting that swing of 12.4% and delivering Cook to the LNP. So that includes, Mossman up to Cooktown, up to the Torres Strait, very large electorate, and Cynthia Lu has been defeated. If we continue down to Gladstone, this is the second of 3 seats that the Labor Party continues to hold. 14.5% swing against the sitting member, who held it previously on a 23.5% margin. As you can see, I don't think anyone had any idea that this seat would fall, just because that Labor primary vote in the last election and this election remains high. That negative 20% swing nearly for the primary vote and that 14.5% swing in the two-party preferred was an interesting result. No one thought it was ever going to flip, but that swing is definitely interesting. If we go to Gregory, the new member, Lachlan, following after Lachlan Miller is Sean Dillian there, as he was able to retain, same with Gympie. Harvey Bay was an LNP gain, which they lost in 2020 to Adrian Tantari. Obviously, as you can see, they're a strong LNP first preference, a 10% swing. This was another prediction that most political analysts thought was a given. Here in Hill, Shane Knuth is retaining his seat for the Cas Australia Party, a swing to the LNP there, but not enough to unseat him. Same with Hinchinbrook there for Nick D'Amito. A small swing to the LNP, but nothing impressive there. If we have a look at Keppel, this is the seat that I was talking that maybe One Nation was hoping to gain after they disendorsed their Moranni member. James Ashby is the One Nation Chief of Staff. He's improved their primary vote there at the expense of Labor, but with that vote splitting with Nigel Hutton and Nigel Hutton ending up higher on the primary vote and no real preference flows to One Nation, getting them above the Labor Party. As you can see, the Greens' preferences there would have heavily favoured Brittany Lauger. There was no way for One Nation to get to second place, and even then, I doubt Labor preferences would have elected James Ashby. So yeah, Nigel Hutton was elected there in Keppel on the back of James Ashby's preferences. So that was kind of a disappointing result there for One Nation. But yeah. If we continue down to Mackay hasn't gone LNP since 1850 and hasn't been anything but Labor since 1915, so this was an interesting result. The 17.2% swing to the LNP for Nigel Dalton there in Mackay. As you can see, the Labor vote collapsed as the member retired, and the LNP high-profile figure really picked that up. As you can see in Maryborough was another interesting one, a 14.5% swing. A lot of people didn't predict this one to fall, but yeah, as you can see, 2.7% lead there for John Baranus. I probably butchered that name. So that was an interesting result there that no one really saw coming. I think it was interesting to see that flip on the night too. It was declared, as you can see, a close first preference and then One Nation preferences there, like 15%, really helping the LNP get over. So that was an interesting result there for Maryborough. Moranni, that was one of the most interesting contests in my opinion. It definitely came close. As you can see, Glenn Kelly, a 9.2% swing to him on the first preference vote. He really secured a large first preference vote, which would have helped him considering unfavourable preferences. Stephen Andrews was the sitting member for One Nation, disendorsed and went to Katter. That's a 2.25% swing because Katter didn't run last time, but really compared to his other result, it's 6% primary swing away from him. He was heavily helped in the preference count, though, by Susan Taylor in the Labor Party and got about 55% of One Nation's preferences, even though One Nation actually preferenced the LNP over Stephen Andrews in this seat. So yeah, considering I think he got about 70% of Labor preferences and then 55% of One Nation preferences, really helped Stephen Andrews get up there on the two-party preferred, make it a close race. Stephen Andrews was leading for most of the election count when Glenn Kelly managed to grab back in the postal votes and the pre-poll and the southern electorate booths, which is able to give him over the line there in Moranni. So that's where One Nation on this infographic here has lost that one seat, and it's been picked up by the LNP. We continue down. Mulgrave is still an LNP likely, and that is because of the low first preference votes for major parties. And as you can see there with Katter, 16 and One Nation 8, and a lot of candidates, those two there would have really helped Terry James in the preference flow, which has got him ahead. We don't have any preference counts in here, but that's just an estimation. There was a lot of candidates here, so that number there could be slightly wrong. But what I can say is the fact that Terry James will probably be the next member. So 15.4% swing to the LNP. So what we're seeing is a really differing swing by swing, seat by seat basis for the swings. I mean, some are swinging wildly to the LNP, some are matching the statewide swing, some are actually going back there in Bundaberg. It's really interesting. So this average swing probably isn't representative of any of the regional electorates, and it really depends on the issues in that electorate. For example, in Townsville, youth crime, and then you've got Burdekin mining, things like that. Janelle Poole was elected in Mundingborough, 13% swing to her, a very safe seat now for her, defeating Les Walker. Nanango is one of the electorates that's not really regional, but yes, obviously an LNP win there. If we continue down to Rockhampton, this is like Mackay, a seat that has not gone Labor for LNP for a long time, but Craig Marshland, who was succeeding the former Labor member, has been defeated there. Donna Kirkland coming second on there, but Margaret Strello, the local mayor who was running for Labor originally, then became the independent, actually preferenced Donna Kirkland, as well as that One Nation presence there got Donna Kirkland over the line in Rockhampton. If we continue down to Southern Downs, is obviously a given, 73.4%, Labor's 26.6%. I don't think there was any question on how Southern Downs was going to go. It's very safe for the LNP. Thuringowa, Natalie Marr, has been elected, 13.2% swing to her, defeating Aaron Harper, the local member. A fair Katter performance there. Natalie Marr, that strong first preference performance, and two LNP favouring preference flows there. Elected her quite happily. Toowoomba North and Toowoomba South, I've counted as regional. There's no question what's going to happen there for Trevor Watson and David Janetsky. They've both got swings to them. David Janetsky's a little bit smaller. But yeah, expected results there. Townsville for Adam Bailey. If we just have a look at the first preferences there, we can see, again, in that Townsville area, that 10 to 20% for Katter was a strong performance for them in Townsville. I know they put a lot of effort into that. But yeah, LNP strongly ahead there, favoured by Katter and One Nation in the preference flow. Labor was below 30% in the primary, and you don't really see them come back from that when there's a 42% for Adam Bailey. So yeah, Resource Minister Scott Stewart defeated in the seat of Townsville. Traeger was one of those seats that swung slightly to the LNP, but still strongly for Robbie Katter there. No surprise for Traeger, Cap retained. Warrego, as you can imagine, was also retained for the LNP. Strong presence there, strong swing. And the Whitsundays went from 3.3% margin, all the way up to 19.5%. So a very strong performance there from Andy Kemp. So it's been an interesting result. What is definitely clear is that the Labor Party are now really relying, if they want to form government in the future, on those seats in the southeast corner. I think in Brisbane and surrounding areas, they've no longer got a large presence in the regions, and it's going to take a lot of work for the Labor Party to claw back that strong presence in the regions, just because of the fact that these swings that are against them have delivered very convincing margins for the new members representing some of the former Labor regional seats. So, for example, in Mackay, Labor Heartland, a 10% margin for Nigel Dalton is something hard to overturn. So, yeah, as you can see, a lot of the changing seats are in the regions. One could argue that the LNP government was elected by the regions, and we'll see how that plays out. For example, in the LNP cabinet conversations, I know some people have hinted at the fact that there might be some portfolios dedicated to Central Queensland and North Queensland, just so the LNP can retain that real strong regional result and presence that they won at this election. there's still those 3 seats in doubt, but none of them really concern regions. Mulgrave, we declared elected for Terry James 2 days ago here at Auslex. It's been an interesting result. It shows that the Labor Party has really lost their place in the regions of Queensland, which was expected considering their poor performance federally here. And I suppose after the COVID boost for Anastasia Palaszczuk, that swing has been represented once more. So yeah, that's just a recap of the regions in the Queensland election. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, feel free to comment. I would appreciate it if you'd subscribed and looked in the bio for the Twitter and Facebook if you'd like to follow them up for live updates and posts on different areas. And other than that, I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.